Thanks, Elizabeth. Hey, everybody, how's it going? So yeah, I'm the Gen Z voice of the show. I know Junior and Erica never ever would have scheduled a show on 9/11. That's my bad. I apologize for that. But if you're interested in like a Gen Z perspective on this important historical occasion, you guys know the kids show Bluey? Well, Bluey's mom is an airport security officer, which implies the existence of the dog 9/11. So, so there's that. But you know, it's important historical like occasions aside. Shout out to Marcy's for hosting this. I broke a glass earlier and I feel bad about it. So thanks to the waitress who like cleaned it up and then dealt with me taking a million years to order. Appreciate you. Drop some money in the tip jar so I can pay them back for the glass that I broke. But yeah, this is a great venue. It's actually the closest the show has ever been to my house. So it's pretty nice because it meant I could walk down, which is good because I'm not really a fan of driving. And that's not so much because of driving itself, but more because of other drivers. Because people in cars never understand the law, but you can never tell how they're going to misunderstand it. You know, like when you're at a four-way stop, there's always that one person who doesn't understand it's not their turn and just blazes right through like an impatient kindergartner. And then there's the other person who like stops and just like tries to wave you through, even though they got there first, because they're like trying to prove like, oh, I'm nice. It's like, okay, but you're breaking the law right now. It's especially bad on a bike because whenever people in cars stop for like bikers and pedestrians, they're so magnanimous about it. They're like, behold my kindness, my empathy for those lower than myself. And it's like, yay, you didn't run me over, thanks. I mean, like when I was a little kid, I was always taught to like wave and say thank you to drivers when they stop for us. How insane is that? They're in these 5,000-pound deck machines and we're supposed to thank them for not running us over? When you pass random strangers on the sidewalk, you don't thank them for not murdering you. You just kind of assume they're not gonna do it. What kind of world would it be like if every time we walked past somebody we didn't know, we were like, oh, thank you for not killing me. Thanks for not like beating me to death with your purse. I appreciate that so much. That's what we do to cars. Whenever I do pass people on the sidewalk, though, I never have any idea what to do. Because when you walk past people you don't know, like you never know if you should smile or say hi or just ignore them or make prolonged, uncomfortable eye contact and not say anything at all. Because if you say hi, then what if they're like, I don't even know you? But it feels wrong to just ignore them. So usually I smile, but then it's hard because you have to work out how soon to smile and how long to keep the smile up and how long it's acceptable to look at them for. There's a lot of calculating that goes into this. Kind of real world problems they never taught me in math class. And then sometimes you smile at people, they don't smile back, and you feel like a fool. What are you smiling for? What if that's what they're thinking? Sometimes, though, people that I don't know will try to talk to me, and I don't like that, because then I have to work out if I know them or if they're just really chatty. And then if they're just really chatty, I have to pretend like I care about what they have to say, which I don't, because I met them 2 seconds ago and will never see them again. When I was little, they always were like, oh, you can't talk to strangers. Don't ever talk to strangers. Now I'm not allowed to ignore the strangers. I think that's rude. You know, they say, will it be rude if you ignore them? Maybe I think it's rude that they're talking to me. I miss when I wasn't allowed to talk to them. I'd like to go back to that. Yeah. I don't know. I think probably doors are one of the greatest things humans have ever invented, because they keep all those people that try to talk to you, they keep them away from you. So that's pretty nice. I keep seeing these ads for an investment company that are like, doors bring us together. No, they don't. Doors were literally invented to keep us apart from each other. That is what they're for. Somebody at some point got so fed up with another person being near them that they decided to put a plank of wood in between them and the other person. And everybody else realized that that was an amazing idea, because having other people near you sucks. And that is why we have doors. I'm starting to wish I could just like have a door that I could carry with me everywhere that I could close on people when they start talking too much. You know, everybody's always going on about freedom of speech. I've decided I believe in freedom from speech. Like, you as an American have the right to say whatever you like, but I think I as an American should have the right not to listen to what anybody else has to say. Although, who am I to judge? I don't know, I'm the one up here yelling all my thoughts through a microphone. Everybody's ready to like whip out their own personal door on me right now. Of course, in horror movies, doors never do what they're supposed to do. They disappear on you just when you want to leave, or they don't open during the chase sequence, or they fail to keep the killer out. Like, they fail at their essential task as a door. That's why home invasion movies are supposed to be so scary, because if these weirdos in masks can get in, what's to stop Carl from accounting from coming in and talking to you whenever he wants? Personally, I'm not really bothered by home invasion movies. Like, they don't really get to me. I know they're supposed to make you doubt the security of your own home. They're all so implausible. Like, The Strangers, have any of you guys seen that movie? Which is a ridiculous movie. So if you're not familiar with the plot, picture this scene. 3 weirdos in masks break into your house, chase you around all night, somehow stop you from, like, picking up a phone or getting in a car, and then they, like, kill you or whatever, and then the next morning, 2, like, missionary kids find your body. You weren't even actually dead. They never address that. That's not even a major plot point. I don't know. But somehow, the couple in that movie never managed to, like, pick up a phone. And it was 2008, they had cell phones. It wasn't like they cut the landline. I looked up why don't they use a phone in The Strangers, and it said the situation escalates too quickly for the couple to realize that it's a life or death situation. I was like, the second you realize there's a rando in a mask just chilling in your yard at midnight, you're maybe gonna want to call somebody. Much less if you suspect that he's in your house. So that movie didn't really bother me. I'd say I'm not easily scared, but I think it's more that a lot of Reddit users are easily scared. Like, they'll say stuff like, I haven't been scared since I was chased by a chihuahua on the playground in the 3rd grade, but this movie made me run out of the theater screaming. And then I'll watch the movie and I'm like, guys, this is child's play. Not only is it not scary, that's literally the name of the movie. I honestly have an endless appetite for trash horror, though, which is good because it's so much easier to find than good stuff. You guys ever watch those ghost hunter shows? They take themselves so seriously that they literally write some of the best humor out there. Because they're so low budget, nobody knows how to write or act, so they say the dumbest stuff with the absolute worst delivery, and it's perfect. My favorite ghost show quote ever was this guy who was like, yeah, we're looking for the ghost of a woman, so we're just kind of feeling around for any female-type activity. Not really sure what that means. Like, are you smelling for nail polish or something? You gonna check the phone bill for, like, 4-hour calls to a house that's 2 blocks away? Are those the female-type activities you're looking for? I don't think any of these guys have ever, like, spoken to a living woman, so they probably don't know what they're talking about either. And they never find anything. They don't even do a good job of making you think they found something. They'll be like, did you hear that? And there's nothing to hear. They don't even bother to edit anything in. I don't understand that. If you're gonna lie about phenomena, at least have the common decency to fake some phenomena. Ethics clearly is not the issue. If your only moral compass is my entertainment, then at least entertain me. So I love terrible horror, but sometimes I get sick of the bad stuff, and then I realize there's something good to watch. Because whenever you're sifting through streaming, you have to search through all this random garbage just to find anything. I don't know where they find these things that they populate the streaming services with. Because if you think about it, Peacock exists to hold like Law and Order, Parks and Recreation, and Psych. And then to justify its existence, they have to populate it with all this other stuff like Love Island and Wolfman and Killer Clowns Part 7, Jesters of the Void, Escape to Outer Space, or whatever. Stuff like that. If you click into a streaming service with no idea what you want to watch, you're already sunk. Either you'll spend 3 hours trying to find something you recognize or at least looks tolerable, or you'll pick something at random and immediately wish you had just chosen to stare at the wall for an hour. And the other thing is, even if something might possibly be good, you can't even tell because they don't even describe what things are anymore. They just like list adjectives. They just pick 3 synonyms and call it good. It reads like an apples to apples card. Explosive, flammable, incendiary. It's a mystery, we'll tag it as mysterious and elusive. That's super helpful, right? Personally, if I'm gonna watch something I don't know anything about, I at least prefer to go see it at the movie theater. You get the full experience that way, the big screen, the seats that always look more comfortable than they are, paying 4 times the price of your ticket for the snacks. Movie snacks are such a scam, but I'm a sucker and I will buy anything. And that is why I have no money, because every time I go to the movie theater, I spend $12 on a ticket and $45 on snacks. I do think that maybe taking it a little bit far now, though, and I don't just mean with the prices. Like, I mean the fact that you can DoorDash Cinemark now. What on earth is the motivation to do something like that? Why would you pay DoorDash prices to pay theater prices for candy you can get at Safeway? That's literally like paying someone to throw your money off a bridge. Buying movie snacks is already enough like throwing your money off a bridge. Why would you pay someone else to do it for you? Especially because then you don't even get to go to the bridge and enjoy the view, which is the whole point of throwing your money off of it in the first place. Yeah, worst use of money I could possibly imagine. DoorDashers have got to see the most ridiculous orders. I can't even imagine the kind of good joke I could make right here if I was a DoorDasher. I am a McDonald's worker, though. And the material that you get from working that job, you meet all sides of humanity when you work fast food. Like, you get the obligatory rude customers. You know, there was a lady who came through drive-thru. I handed her her Happy Meal. She immediately pulls out the toy and goes, "This is not the toy that I asked for. And the girl that took my order told me that I couldn't choose a toy, and I used to work here, and I know that I can, so I am going to be calling the manager on that girl that took my order." I was like, "Well, you know, I'm glad that you used to work here. You don't anymore. Things change every 3 days at McDonald's." One time I didn't go to work for a week, and I went back, there was a new bike lane on Division, and they'd added a whole new meal to the menu. Also, this was a grown-ass woman. She should not have been getting upset about her Happy Meal toy. And so you get the rude customers, you get the really nice customers, but mostly the people that stand out are the absolute weirdos. I have had some insane interactions while at work. There's a guy who asked for 6 pickles on each burger. I think he ordered 4 cheeseburgers. He wanted 6 pickles on each burger. There was a lady who told me I had pretty lips. That was pretty weird. One time, I asked this guy if he wanted a refill. We have to do that now. So, tangent to give context for this story, McDonald's is doing this thing now where like there's always somebody stationed in lobbies that have to go around cleaning stuff and going, "Is there anything else I can do for you?" Which nobody wants us to do, because when you're eating a McDonald's, you're not paying to be waited on, you're paying to be left alone. But I went up to this guy and I was like, "So can I get your refill?" And he goes in this really thick Eastern European accent. He was like, "Are you trying to go to heaven?" And I was like, "I'm trying to get paid so I can buy a foam sword for a Dungeons and Dragons character." And then later on, I went back to him and I asked him like something else. "Can I do anything else for you?" He was like, "You're an angel, so you already go to heaven because I say you're an angel." Which, like, nice, I think, but also so strange. I was like, "Haha, what?" But don't let that fool you into thinking that being on lobby in McDonald's even approaches being interesting. It is the dullest thing on the planet because there's nothing to do, because nobody eats in the lobby of a McDonald's. And even when people do eat in there, there's still nothing to do because it's only really old people and they take forever to finish eating. So I'm circling the tables like a shark, waiting for them to get done so I can take their trash and then go back to cleaning things that don't need to be cleaned so that I don't get fired. And even cleaning things that don't need to be cleaned is difficult because despite being a multi-billion-dollar corporation, McDonald's is incapable of purchasing one spray bottle that works. So my days are a constant cycle of, well, guess it's back to the broom closet. And oh, never mind, this is the worst song ever written. They play exclusively the same selection of pop hits from between 2012 and 2018 in lobby every single day. That is my least favorite kind of music. I listen to music that can and has been described as dad rock. My Spotify has called me a hipster multiple times. And you know what? I may not know what a hipster is, but I refuse to believe that I am one. So if you don't know, Spotify is this thing called a day list, where it gives you like music that's similar to what you listen to on that weekday and time, which in itself is odd because I don't think anybody like listens intentionally to like yearning crunchy music on Wednesday afternoons, whatever that's supposed to mean. And they all have these weird specific genre titles like Heartland Rock Troubadour Friday Afternoon, things like that. And mine has hipster in the title like 40% of the time. And you know what? Maybe I am a hipster. I don't know. I don't know what that is because they didn't cover that in my AP US history class last year. I know what a hippie is because we talked about 1960s counterculture, but I guess hipsters weren't important enough to make it into the textbook. And that's the kind of lack of real world knowledge that always comes back to bite AP kids in the ass. You know, I'm sure one day it's going to be super important that I know what a hipster is, or else I'm going to face mortal peril. And I'll be let down by this massive knowledge gap that the College Board has failed to breach for me. But honestly, I'm not too concerned about the possibility of me being a hipster because Spotify's algorithms are pretty terrible anyway. My made for you playlists are just combinations of songs that I listen to all the time and songs that sound like nothing I've ever played in my life. I love Spotify, I do, but I have my problems with it at times. Usually it's fine, you know, bad algorithms, whatever. I only ever listen to the same song on repeat for a week, and then get sick of it, don't listen to music for 2 weeks, and then find a new song, just goes on and on and on, you know, that's fine. Calls my taste in music strange, like whatever, that's fine, it is pretty strange. I can't really argue with that. But my main problem with it is that sometimes I want to listen to music, I don't have an internet connection, which is fine because I download the 4 songs that I like at any given moment so that I can listen offline, right? But sometimes you have a bad connection, and a bad connection is worse than no connection because then your phone thinks it can't play it, even though it can. But since it doesn't have internet, it goes, oh, I can't play that. I'm like, I downloaded it yesterday. Trying to get your phone to play music that you have downloaded feels like being a frustrated mother with a kid who can't find his water bottle. I know you have it. I put it in your backpack this morning. It's not here. Did you look in the side pouch? Yes. Check again. It's not in there. See, here it is in the side pouch, just like I told you. Well, wasn't there a second ago? To be fair to my phone and also to that kid, it is super easy to lose things. Have you ever panicked because you lost your sunglasses and then they're on your head? Or using your phone flashlight to look under the couch to try and find your phone? I'm honestly so amazed that humans ever evolved to the point that we're at today because we're definitely the most incompetent species on the planet. And you might argue, yeah, but we created all this technology and stuff to make up for our incompetence. Sure, that's fine. But how was anybody ever competent enough to come up with that stuff in the first place? I think probably the best marker of human progress, definitely shoes. Have you ever tried to get anywhere barefoot? It's impossible. Walking on rocks, not even sharp rocks, not gravel, smooth rocks. It hurts. I don't know how people ever got anywhere that wasn't covered in grass before we invented shoes. The human body honestly really seems to have some serious design flaws with it. You know, teeth. Brushing and flossing, not natural processes. If we didn't do them, all our teeth would fall out. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'd really like to submit a complaint to the manufacturer on some of these things, you know? Can you imagine that customer service call? Hello, God? Yeah, there's some serious performance issues with the no exchanges, no refunds body that was purchased for me at birth. No, I didn't purchase the extended warranty. There was a 40-year quality assurance guarantee. And then customer service goes, well, if you're using it with products from a different manufacturer, then the liability becomes your own. There's nothing I can do for you. So you're reduced to leaving negative reviews on Amazon. 1-star reviews on Amazon are the most ridiculous use of human innovation conceivable. We have the technology to shop from our couch, look at stuff that's thousands of miles away, get it delivered to our door, and then people use it to complain about their stuff not working when they use it like an idiot. I ran my wool sweater through the dryer and it lost its shape. 0 out of 10. It was very, very uncomfortable, very scratchy, obviously such a scam, very low quality product. It's yeah, you bought it from Amazon. We have all this amazing technology. This is what we do with it. We live in simultaneously the smartest and dumbest age in all of human history. Because here's my theory. As the smartest people in a society get smarter and smarter, the dumbest people get dumber. Because the smart people invent stuff to keep the dumb people from having to get smart or get naturally selected out of the equation. And so as our science and our technology gets smarter and smarter, the average person gets dumber. And if you need any proof that humans are the dumbest species on the planet, just look at all of the social rules that we've invented for ourselves. They're completely arbitrary. No one will ever tell you what they are. No one will ever tell you if you break one, but they will judge you forever if you do. You have to clean up when people are coming over because you have to make your house look nice for the guests. But you can't ever let them know that you cleaned up for them because they have to think that this is what your house always looks like because existence is a lie. Actually, all of having people over for dinner is kind of full of weird rules, especially the concept of having people over for dinner in the first place. Because how hosting works, as I understand it, is you meet a person, you talk to them a few times, and then you think, oh, now I'm expected to have them over for dinner. So you invite them over, you cook, you clean, whatever, you have a great time. But here's the thing, they never expected you to invite them over. So you're forced to clean up and make food and have people in your house because you expect them to expect you to invite them over. The most evil social rule of them all, though, is small talk, 100%. You're out in a place like the grocery store where you don't want to talk to anybody else. You just want to get your groceries and then get out and go home and eat your Cheez-Its in silence. And you see a person that you know, and neither of you wants to talk to the other, but you recognize that you're seeing somebody you know, so you have to go up to them, make 5 minutes of conversation about nothing, and then both walk away annoyed. But sometimes you run into a person that actually likes small talk. These are the people you gotta watch out for, because like all small talk, it's about nothing, but it'll be a lot about nothing. These people, they don't want to hear about how you are. They just want to tell you about how they are. You spot them in the grocery store, you try to avoid eye contact and dart into the next aisle before they see you, but it doesn't work. They flag you down, they say hi, you ask how they are, you feel your dread growing, and then they say, well, Eleanor, it's sure been a week. And your life is over for the foreseeable future. You have to make up sympathy for all these imagined woes that they want to tell you about. And then at the end of it, they're always like, well, I won't keep you. A little late for that, don't you think? Yeah, not a fan of talking to people. Definitely not my forte. Probably the only thing I hate more than making small talk is eating lunch. My least favorite meal of all time. Terrible meal. You can't cook anything for lunch because it's just not a meal that deserves it. And you always either you pack it at the beginning of the day, and then by the time it's noon, you don't want it anymore, or you're just chilling in your house. You haven't made a plan. Suddenly it's 12:45. You're starving, so you walk to the fridge. You look in it. There's nothing in there you want to eat. So you go to the pantry and you look in that. And there's nothing in there that you want to eat. Oh. Hi there. Thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah, you look at the pantry, there's nothing in there you want to eat, so you go back to the fridge, you go back to the pantry, you do that a few times, then you end up eating a cheese sandwich because there's no cold cuts and you're out of leftovers. You might be thinking, but Eleanor, that's why they invented restaurants. They make the food for you. Sure, but when you go to a restaurant, you have to decide what to order. Oh, there he goes again. I hope he's having a nice night. Yeah, you have to decide what to order when you go to a restaurant. And the way that menus are written, you always have to try and decipher what the meals mean because they're written in a way where everything sounds delicious, but you can't tell what anything is, and they all sound super similar. So it's two totally different dishes with the exact same sounding name. Also, when I'm given like a restaurant menu that has a lot of options on it, my brain just kind of shuts down and refuses to make a decision. Like, do I want pancakes or do I want waffles? Well, do I like waffles better than pancakes? Do I like waffles at all? Do I even know what a waffle is? Have I ever heard of a waffle? I think it gets the worst at ice cream shops because there's just a ton of options and they all look delicious. And obviously there's no such thing as bad ice cream. So you can't make a wrong decision. And half of my decisions are like, well, I'll avoid the wrong decision. Here's a choice, I guess. And at ice cream shops, you can't make a wrong decision. And then sometimes, I always want to get something that's not chocolate. The adventurous try new things, but I also really always want to get chocolate because I really like chocolate. And you can't always do both because not everything goes well with chocolate. So then you're just kind of standing there and your brain is short-circuiting. This happened to me one time at a Baskin Robbins, and there was a poster on the wall, and it said, "Can't decide? Try our ice cream flight with 4 flavors." What they don't realize is that for somebody like me, that makes everything 5 times worse. Because that's actually 5 decisions. Because you have to decide to get the flight, and then you have to decide on 4 individual flavors, which is way worse than just choosing a single scoop. Because that's actually 400% more decisions, which is so much worse. It is not that I'm torn between 4 different flavors, it's that I'm paralyzed by the choices. All right, that's all I got, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great night.
Amazing, Eleanor. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy, for having us. That was so much fun.